everybody, this is John for MTG Nexus doing a re-recording of the intro for this mono black vampires. This was one of the decks that I played during the June Manatraders series for the Pioneer qualifier. Unfortunately didn't quite make it because we ran out of time because I started a little bit late and would have required a fairly high win percentage in the either 10 or 20 match bracket window in order to qualify, and unfortunately a couple of the decks we played didn't perform especially well in the sample of games that we played them. As a friendly reminder, if you like especially modern content with a little bit of Pioneer and Legacy thrown in, please consider subscribing to the channel, especially if you like stuff of the lightning bolt based variety. So this is mono black vampires. Full disclosure, I obviously have a second and third channel, only really working on the second channel. It's a historic Magic channel for the historic format on Arena, and one of the decks that I liked really early on in the historic format was the Black White Vampires list. This was something that came in the tail end of, I believe, Last Standard. Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord, very powerful card from M20, really made vampires very powerful. And that deck had a little bit more of an aggressive bent to it with like a Danto Vanguard and Legion, the one-drop Legion thing. A Danto the first becomes a Danto the first 4. That deck was a little bit more aggressively slanted. This deck is a little bit more mid-range control-ish slanted. This is a deck that Budakov has worked on at certain points throughout Pioneer. Obviously, Pioneer isn't quite as popular as it was in its initial heyday, because both Modern has gotten it to be overall a better format than it was, and the fact that people were not a huge fan of Lotus Breach and Inverter being the top dogs in the Pioneer format. But this is a deck that has the disruption, has the thought seizes, has the fatal pushes, kind of disrupt the early aggressive decks or combo, and then kind of sells into a Knight of the Ebon Legion, Gifted Aetherborn, Dusk Legion Zealot. Can get on the board early, leverage. This is the main hallmark of the card, Sorin Imperious Bloodlord. This is one of those things that one of the most powerful effects in Magic is being able to cheat on mana. And Sorin is very capable of cheating on mana in very specific cases, especially with a -3, which you can immediately use because the loyalty is a 4. And then if you have a Kalidas or a Champion of Dusk, especially Champion of Dusk, you've basically played 8 mana worth of cards and drawn probably 2 to 3 cards that turn if you've played either a Knight or one of these 2-drops previous to that, or if you played like on turn 4 and you've played even more. Beyond that, you're just trying to play a mono black mid-range thing. You're using things like Murderous Rider and Heartless Act to remove problematic permanents. Heartless Act, most notably, should be replaced from the card from M21 that kills target Planeswalker or creature 3 or less. Probably should be in place of Heartless Act. It's kind of funny that back-to-back, the 2 best 2-drop black removal spells ever might have been printed. But that's something to consider. But in this particular event, this was before M21 came out, so Heartless Act was the best 2-drop removal spell. Previously, this would be things like Cast Down or Grasp of Darkness, perhaps. But Heartless Act kills a lot of what's going on in the format. Obviously, Murderous Rider kills everything pretty much that doesn't have Indestructible. And, you know, you have a little bit of lifelink with Murderous Rider and Kalidas, so you have game against the red decks. You have disruption plus pressure against the combo decks, whether it be Inverter or Lotus Breach. So it feels like you have the tools in the main deck to compete with anything. Sideboard, you have even more disruption in the form of Drill Bit and Lost Legacy. Obviously pretty good against the combo decks, especially Lotus Breach and Inverter. Inverter, you need to poke a hole in their strategy. Ideally against Inverter, you either want to blow up the combo, or maybe if they've settled in the blue-black control deck range, maybe you want to like take their dig through time and just kind of trade the 1-for-1 game, because at least in the first initial wave, especially if you have a Sorin or a Champion of Dusk or both, you can often kind of weather the storm because you have that. And your land base also is able to play 4 Castle Locked Away and 4 Mutavault, which means you're constantly being able to refill your hand to a certain degree. And as long as your opponent can't either overwhelm you with very powerful Planeswalkers or, you know, basically combo you out of nowhere, then you're in a pretty good spot in those kind of matchups. And obviously Lost Legacy, pretty good at stripping combo pieces. Liliana Last Hope, this one's kind of an interesting one. It's pretty good against the Mana Dork decks, also pretty good against the control decks. Rankle, this comes in when you have to take more of the aggressive stance in matchups, whether it be against combo decks, whether it be against control decks. You know, you often board out Cletus in those matchups because a 3/4 lifelinker without haste isn't really all that impressive, whereas a 3/3 flyer with haste that has a whole bunch of abilities tacked on can be pretty powerful. And finally, a third copy of Cletus, pretty good against when you gotta take the control role against other aggressive decks. Heartless Act kind of comes in with that. And then 2 copies of Soul Guide Lantern are pretty good in some spots where you either need some disruption for like Sultai with the Uro loop going, keep that blown up, etc., etc., or pretty good against like a Lotus Breach as well to kind of disrupt their Underworld Breach turns. You can just have this sit and play and do that. So, see how this deck does in the matches that we played during the Manatraders series. Back with our first match with Vampires here. This hand's a bit tricky. No plays on the first couple turns, but we do have Sorin and Champions, so I'm going to keep it. Once again, though, this hand could get easily blown up, so hopefully we'll draw some plays for turn 2. Or we're going to get Thought Seized and Hate Our Lives. So, looks like we'll be up against Sultai. Pass turn. Humans. Okay. Hero of Precinct 1. Seize ourselves. Interesting. Actually a tough one. What do we take here? Immediately rips the 3rd land, making Collected Company that much more likely. Go through the turn. And currently Coco, and okay, they immediately rip the 4th land for Collected Company. No blocks. Fatal Push. Yep. Unfortunately, our graveyard's not particularly relevant. So if I fatal push that, murderous rider that, I take 4. So, Abzan humans, huh? Going to 2. Alright, so some type of weapons nonsense. Rest, etc. Definitely want that. Definitely want the other Cletus. Liana seems reasonable here. Just board out the 4 Thoughtseizes. We have a couple Thoughtseizes in. It's not the best card in the world to top deck. That seems pretty good. Interesting to see how effective Liliana will be. Fatal push, General's Enforcer. Okay, and opponent concedes. Sure. One champion, a Dusk out. Unfortunately, we can't keep this hand, I don't think. Yeah. Can we, though? Stand up here is much better. Put a sword on the bottom. Sure. Would you like my Sorin or would you like my interaction? Okay. It's a pretty good rip. Fatal push, sure. Human. Hopefully you don't have collected company here, but I'm sniffing that you do. With okay. Okie dokie. To make 1/1. Oh no, you have collected company. Cool. Okay, hero precinct 1 and pup in the team. General Kudrow is kind of annoying here. Some serious rips, friend. Is sacrifice a zombie or a vampire? That is a zombie. Please don't hit another freaking collected company. Okay, that's fine-ish. Alright, unfortunately we lost. So, on to the next match. Back here for match number 2 with Mono Black Vampires. Castle Locktwain. Yeah, seems fine. Push, or pretty solid hand overall. Okay. So it's kind of funny that this particular deck, Rabble, it's going to be a Rabble Rouser. We have as a fatal push here, so it is what it is. Does our opponent have anything post combat? Presumably they will. Heart's Desire into Beast Boy. Pass, took me on the defensive a little bit. Yep, don't particularly care about the elf. Good. What you got, friendo? Okay, so that's the goblin getting blocked this turn. We're just at Ember Cleave plus Lovestruck Beast, unfortunately. Leonis seem alright. Cletus seems good. Heartless Axe seems good. Go down a champion. Couple Thought Seizes. Kind of a rough start so far. Losing to Mardu Humans in 3 and then down a game to Rule here, so. Fatal Flush isn't without its flaws. Not being able to kill that Rabble Master there certainly hurt us a lot. I mean, yeah, I could have given up the Knight, I guess, to kill it, but was that worth it? I honestly don't know. Okay. Liliana can clean up the tokens a little bit, kill mana dorks, especially on the play. On the draw, it might not be quite as good. Soren's just like the workhorse of the entire deck. Turn 3 Cletus seems pretty rough for them. The Marty Humans list was kind of interesting. Did we disconnect? So let's go first. It's fine, not exciting. Dust leaves an Zealot to help us find our third land drop. Play Sorin into Kalidas here. Struck Beast, Heart's Desire is not really the card that scares me here, so... Land drop, please. We hit Heartless Act. Okay. No blocks. Third land. Sorin into Kalidas here. No reason to attack. Guess our opponent has like a lava coil or something. Sure. So the kind of starts that alright, I'm gonna say these are the kind of starts that make vampires feel borderline unbeatable in some games. Just this spread of stupidity there. Just Sorin into Kalidas, 7 mana spells on turn 3. That's some straight up modern level crap right there. Maybe we trim a Liliana on the draw and bring in a Thoughtseize. Just give us more to do on turn 1. Liliana is a good bit less effective on the draw, so... yeah, hand's fine. I mean... no turn 1 play, interesting. Okay. Seems to be the draw for your turn. Okay. Legion War Boss. Boss plus Umbercleave obviously is annoying. So you want to block in such a way that Kalidas lives through the turn. So that will trade off regardless, right? So they boost that to a 3/3. This just like super screams Umbercleave. Or it's one heck of a bluff on our opponent's part. Okay, Rampager. Guess we weren't beating that regardless, so. What are they holding up? I am thoroughly confused as to what's going on right now. Okay, sure. Walked right face first into that collected company. Mm-hmm. outcome I was hoping for there, but we're still like very far behind. Alright, well, that's just too much to overcome. And for the next match with Vampires. Back for match number 3. We're on the draw. Hand's pretty reasonable, I guess. Fatal Push and Aetherborn and the Murderous Rider. Obviously not the best hand if we're up against a controlling deck, but okay. Definitely a ramp deck of sorts, it looks like. So probably gonna drop a Walker here, would be my guess. So while we can maybe do 8 mana worth of stuff, looks like our opponent. Okay, sure. Karn the Great Creator. Takes 3 to crew. So we'll start by attacking the darn thing. This opportunity to draw some cards. Oh, wah, wah. Sure. That kills Karn, that deals damage to them. Doing the high upside plan of trying to hit a land drop here. We succeed, so we get to do this and this. Triggers. Okay, Jewelite Ranger. Jade Light Ranger, sure. So they're on a truckin' with the boat. Okay. Curious what they kill here. Probably the Aetherborn? Okay, one of the Knights of the Ebon Legion. Okay. 2, 6, 7, 8, 9. So with everything here. Just hold up the Murderous Rider for the boat. Okay, Voracious Hydra incoming. Sure. We're gonna try to fight. Murderous Rider is on an adventure. Kill on the Gifted Aetherborn here. Attack with both of these. They'll probably chump block both. Still hold the Sorin in reserve. It's possible I should have played the Kalias out by now, but... Another Voracious Hydra. Yep. Question is, what is this fighting? Okay. Fire up the boat. Okay. So if we draw a land, they're just dead. So 2, 3. Kill that guy. And pumpkin seeds. Okie dokie. So big rampy dudes. Probably want Liliana's, probably want Heartless Act. Look down a Zealot and a Champion, maybe? Just put this in. Try like this. Alright. What you got over there, friend? Is this hand good enough? 1 drop into removal spell into 4. Yeah, I guess we keep this hand. Like, only thing better would be a Fatal Push or a whatchamacallit, but Murderous Rider is fine. 2. How many mana dorks do you have? Willowhaven, sure. Swamp doesn't continue to be a terrible draw. Kill that, shut the mana as best we can. Hopefully they don't have too much this turn, so that's 3 mana, 4 mana. Voracious Hydra would be annoying. Karn might require an instant answer. Darksteel Citadel. Just kill this Karn. Again, this is the downside of being on the draw. While we are ahead on board, it will not take much for them to be ahead on board, to say the least. So, Advocate of Monsters. Reach. Interesting. Who am I kidding? I'm not pumping that to threaten Vivian here. So, let's do this. Jade Light Ranger. Okay. Walking Ballista is going to be a problem. Especially since unfortunately, we don't have an answer to the thing without sacrificing a this was missequencing badly on my part, but the game has fizzled, unfortunately, but okay. This, it's a lot of mana. Okay. Alright, moving on. Okie dokie. One last game. On play, do we want Drill Bit? Problem is we're not particularly good at actually forcing through damage, so I think we leave it as is. No one mana plays. Is that good enough? Don't think this hand's particularly aggressive or particularly controlling, so I think I'm going to throw it back. This hand seems much more interesting to me. question is, what do we put back here? I guess Heartless Act. It's possible we risk like putting back a land, but alright, well, that makes for a pretty good turn, I suppose. Start by casting a Thoughtseize. So I have a bunch of bombs. Actually, I missed an opportunity here to get in some free damage. Missed the opportunity to get an extra 1 damage on our opponent here, so no reason to attack. They're just gonna snap block. So please don't have another land. Of course you do. Some pretty good rips. Opponent has to decide whether they want to. Okay, so they get to cast Vivian here, which is annoying. Okay, they're just casting Karn, apparently. Unfortunately, I think we're just going to lose this game just to sheer dumb being overpowered. So yep. I'll just continues to keep the gas flowing. Okay. Pithing needle. Kalidas, Trader of Get. It's a pretty decent one. I think we attack. What? Vivian. I still think we're in a lot of trouble here. There's too many planeswalkers and too many bombs. So we gotta go fight through double Karn plus the board they already have. Yep, and they just go get the boat. Womp womp. Come down, kill the... Yep. Alright, we're just too far behind. Too many things we want to kill, and 1-for-1 just ain't doing it. Be back in a sec with the rat. So, a little bit frustrating there. Played 3 different matchups, really. Played against Abzan humans, played against Gruul aggro, and played against green-white Karn walkers. It's basically the mono green devotion shell with like a 1-out Heliod and Walking Ballista as just like a kill you combo with Vivian. So like we took each match to 3 games, but just felt like we weren't quite on the same power level as what everybody else is doing. Like, the Abzan Humans list had the Collected Companies, and maybe I was supposed to take Collected Company with Thoughtseize. Then the Gruul aggro deck obviously had things like Ember Cleave and a lot of big dumb idiots. And then the Green-White Devotion deck just, it snowballs. And, there were games where we were on the front foot and just rode the front foot to victory, but then it feels like the games where we were on the back foot, we just weren't able to have enough tools to recover. So... little bit of a rough showing. Obviously, those are the kind of matchups I like to have things like Noxious Grasp and such in, but then again, they're not a huge part of the meta right now, so that's one of the things when you're like playing leagues or playing in different events. It's just like, well, you can gun for the top of the meta, but at the same time, you know, you can't do everything. And this deck is decidedly mid-range. It's really not. It has some aggressive draws, but the aggressive draws in this deck aren't that great. They're like Knight of the Ebon Legion into Gifted Aetherborn into Sorin, play Champion of Dusk, plus on something the next turn, you know, maybe a turn 5 kill, and that's like when you have the absolute god draw of like 3 lands, Knight, 2-drop, Sorin plus Champion, refill, vomit your hand. So, you know, while Sorin's a very powerful card, even as a 3-drop, it does require you to have the right payoffs, and, you know, much like any other Planeswalker, if your opponent's able to overwhelm your board position, just kind of get wiped. And all 3 decks that we played against just kind of overwhelmed our board position, either because Fatal Push couldn't kill a Legion War Boss or a Goblin Rabble Master, or our opponent just had a bunch of mana dorks, and Vivian continues the gas flowing off the top. You know, so, you know, in the 1-for-1 world, this deck's pretty good. In a power-on-power matchups, maybe this deck isn't always the best. So, especially when a lot of the random things our opponent have were just like 2-for-1s. Like Lovestruck Beast, Heart's Desire, that's 2-for-1, even if it's not particularly relevant, but, you know. So, anywho, 0-3 run here. We're going to switch it up with another deck. Be back in a bit with another deck.